Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you happen to be watching this. My name is Richard, and welcome to Absalom Solutions. All right, so brain is office. Now, just like an office, there are departments, and the brain has different segments. When information comes into an office, certain departments deal with certain things. Accounts receivable takes the money in, accounts payable pays the money out. But it's not usually the same people, and with good reason, because information is filed differently for these different departments. All right, we're going to talk about a large office. Not as large as the brain. The brain is multiple billion cells. There's no office that I know of that is multiple billion people, but that's okay. If we were to talk about a much smaller model of this, you have two distinct types of cells. So you have two different categories of people. Neurons, which are the key people that do the actual work and process the information in workflow. Then you have the glial cells. The glial cells are the support people. They're the ones who make sure that the work environment is kept clean, neat, and that everybody is properly supported. Something that I want to make very clear that's really important is that it's not about the people themselves, but the flow of information, right? A person in an office can be replaced. That doesn't mean that all their information goes with them. The information is part of the office environment. It's part of the flow of procedure and the flow of information and the storage of information. So cells, just like people change jobs and whatnot. Cells can die off and be replaced. They don't usually transfer. Cells generally stick to one job. Now, for this particular analogy, I'm going to use a building management office or a project management office. Why? Because a project management office deals with a lot of external offices. But what makes this so special is the fact that this interchange with the other offices is a great analogy for the brain having to operate and make sure that the rest of the body is functioning normally. So these outside contractors are a perfect example of the right hand, the left hand, the posture. Everything that the body does and the brain handles are external contracts. The brain doesn't handle that internally. Well, it coordinates it, but it doesn't actually do the work. Okay, so what happens if an area of the brain gets damaged? Well, very much like if part of the office got damaged. No power, fire, flood, whatever it is. If a part of the office is completely non-functional, it's not like the work stops. The rest of the office still works fine, and any good office team will be able to figure out how to work around that. The brain is no exception. The brain is very good at going forward, figuring out how to work around. That's not to say that you'll gain full functionality of that department in other departments, but they can offset the workload as best as possible to other divisions so that the person can function in general. They may still have, for example, language deficits, or in the case of the visual cortex, it doesn't mean they won't be blind, but it means that other senses will become more acute to compensate. So the brain redirects the resources to make it more effective in other ways so that the information flow still works. So let's take a look at some of the departments. Well, we've got the thalamus. The thalamus is a about walnut-shaped piece. It's kind of really well embedded in there, just above the brainstem. It's kind of the relay center. So as far as our office goes, it's reception. Information comes in. Reception makes sure that the information gets to the appropriate person or people. It makes sure that that the information starts the flow the right way. So that is your thalamus. Now, Broca's region is very much like your public relations department. It deals with how the language and communication goes out. It doesn't deal in terms of, for example, interpretive dance, but any way you're structuring your sentences or formulating how you want to say something is very much Broca's area. So that's your PR department. There's another area of the brain that deals with language, and Wernicke's area is your call center. It's where you take the language in and understand how the words, what the words mean, how they're interpreted, and there is a difference. Now, it's always Wernicke's, but low level and high level, if it's a language that you're extremely fluent in, you're going to understand it a lot more easily, and it's going to be what we refer to as a top-down process. I've mentioned that before. So that's how you get your top-down process. It's something you know very well, so you recognize patterns very easily. If it's a new language to you, again, your call center agents may not be very proficient, so they're going to have to go around the call center a few times to see if together they can kind of figure out what this is. That's low-level process. It's a lot more work. So low-level process is a language you don't understand very well, and both are part of Wernicke's. The cerebellum, that's usually mostly back here. The cerebellum controls your motor function, but it actually is a lot more than just motor function. It controls aspects of memory, prioritization. So in this case, we're going to say that it's our project development team or the project management team that actually coordinates all the other areas. Short-term memory is usually handled in one particular department or between departments. But it's kind of sitting on the desk in the outbox or, kind of ready to go, ready to be filed away, but it's not filed away just yet. The popular or increasingly popular theory currently is that while you're sleeping, during your rapid eye movement or REM state, that's usually when you dream. But it's not all just about dreaming. It's believed that at that point, your brain is going through all the paperwork and filing it away. If it's just standard procedure, it streamlines the flow of information. It streamlines it down. The same commute you've taken to work every morning for the past year, we don't keep that. Unless something special happened. If something special happened, if there's a report that says this happened out of the usual, that gets filed. While your first few cycles for REM are not about creating lucid dreams where you visualize a lot. It really is about going through the information, streamlining it, and filing it away from short-term to long-term memory, so archiving it. Another thing about recall is this. Before I mentioned that 3 times establishes a pattern, but the more you can make that pattern work, I also mentioned about learning styles, so the more learning styles you can incorporate, visual language, audio cues, even olfactory, so smelling things can make memories much more rich. Why? Because that procedure has to go through more departments. It has to get filed from more departments. So it's a longer chain throughout this office that is your brain. The more departments that have to deal with something and the more outlandish or exaggerated it is from the norm, the more it's going to catch on. Here's the interesting thing. Because our brains do this, because we eliminate the doldrum, this is why we're so bad at estimating our chances of losing at the casino or when we're gambling. So do things like, we hear statistics about how many deaths per year happen from heart disease. But we don't fear heart disease. We'll fear a plane crash, which kills so many less people. But the reason that we fear the plane crash is because that's what we see in the news. That's what's sensationalized. That's what's being thrown at us with such intensity that we go, oh my gosh, plane crashes kill. Many things kill. And this is just one example, but it's also a matter of we don't count our losses, but we count our wins. We remember the 3 wins, but we don't remember the 300 pulls of the slot machine to get to those 3 wins because those are doldrum. We don't want to remember those. Those are we count those as failures, so we pawn them off. So again, the more you can establish a pattern and make it a vibrant pattern that can really stand out, that will light up the chain further and give you more pull at the office, so that more of the office becomes involved. If it becomes water cooler talk, recall becomes very easy. This is why we talk about stories and why stories are so important. Stories allow us to tie in many, many different ways of bringing information about. Hypnotists use the my friend Jim, my friend Jeff, my friend whatever. The my friend story allows our brain to play the scenario out, allow us to take a rich language, something that can that somebody can get emotionally invested in, and light up so many areas in such a rich way. How could we not remember it? How could we not be engaged? And watch the best speech givers of all time. All the best speech givers tell you a story. Kind of like I'm trying to right now about talking about this brain as an office. But it's a story that I hope will stay with you. And you'll go, oh yeah, right, I remember that. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is kind of cool. It's a sidebar, but really cool. What we find funny, humor, is actually a form of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. What is cognitive dissonance? That awkward moment when ... That awkward moment where your brain lurches and goes, is cognitive dissonance. It's one kind. We're going to try a little experiment. If you want to follow along, please do, because this is kind of cool. I want you to take your two fingers and start to make them spin like they're on a wheel, but at opposite ends. Now, if I told you to reverse the direction so that the fingers go in different directions, most people just go like this. But that's not it. Your fingers have to go in different directions. But that lurch, when your brain goes, that is cognitive dissonance. A perfect example of it. Now, here's the cool part. Humor is a specific type of cognitive dissonance where information goes to the right department via an entirely wrong way, or goes to the wrong department the right way. But the fact that it winds up somewhere that we don't expect gives us that moment, but we experience it as something funny. It tickles us internally. It tickles the brain because it's something in the office that everybody kind of goes, now that was odd. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. By all means, please click subscribe. If you want to know more about the videos when we release them, a little bell is great. There's a lot of changes going on YouTube, but we're going to keep posting the content here, and I want you guys to enjoy it. But really, please, we'd love you to reach out. We want to hear from you. The website, absalom.io. So please come visit the website. There's a chat feature on there. If not, info@absalom.io. You can reach us by email. If you know me personally, by all means, give a chat, whatever. Find me on LinkedIn. We would love to talk with you and find out more about what you're doing, what your projects are. We're here to help people. So we want to see what you guys have in mind. And we just really love connecting because, well, we're all about connecting, and especially using technology to do so. So please come check out the website. Leave a comment below. We want to know more. And if there's any subject that you'd like to know more about, please leave it in the comments below. I'm going to check that out because I want to make sure that we're providing content that's interesting to you. So love to hear about what you guys think of this episode and what you might want to see for future episodes or what you might want to know more about. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week with another video.